We are in very challenging times for election administration. If people lose the belief that our elections are fair and above board, that can lead to very dangerous places, up to and including death threats, not just here in Colorado, but across the country. So we have to be aggressive with the truth in the public square so that people can know what really happens.
How do we find the news? How do we find out what our government's doing? If you don't have a paper, you lose track of all that.
Studies have shown when local news organizations go out of business in communities, bad things happen.
So does that mean we can count on your vote in November? Sweet.
So we are bringing an endangered species back by public referendum. No other state has used that as a technique.
A lot of important social justice movements have used ballot measures throughout the past, and we see them being a really important part of the future.
We are the first state to ever require every jail to have an in-person voting event. Individuals on the inside have just as much of a stake in voting as anyone on the outside.
Welcome to Colorado Voices, where we share the stories shaping our state and our communities. I'm Gabriela Resto Montero. In today's episode, we go beyond the ballot to examine Colorado's election system, from security to voting rights and public dialogue. Our first story includes voices from both the Front Range and the Western Slope. County clerks in Castle Rock, Grand Junction, and beyond challenge misinformation about the integrity of our elections. To debunk false narratives, they invite critics to participate in the process, despite threats to themselves and their families.
One of my favorite things when people find out I work in elections administration, they're like, wow, that sounds interesting. What do you do the other 364 days a year? But this is very serious work by very serious people to make sure that we run elections that are accessible, secure, fair, transparent for the people who live here in Colorado. Know what the postage is on a ballot. I am the executive director of the Colorado County Clerks Association. I have worked in election administration in Colorado since the year 2000. I consult with the federal government on election security issues. It's fair to say I'm very much an election geek. We are in very challenging times for election administration. The loser's lament is not something that's new. We have people who, when they lose, they cry fraud, they cry suppression, or all of these things without any evidence because it's very tough for some people to accept that they lost. But we've never seen anything like we have after the 2020 election, where a sitting president puts forth lies and disinformation about elections. People use the stolen election narrative now for political purposes, for financial purposes. And so that's really had a damaging effect on election administration, on the people who work in this field. It's actually our citizens who run our elections as election judges. So it's your fellow church members, your PTA members, your synagogue members, your Elks Lodge members, right? Your neighbor next door. These are the men and women who dedicate time to come in and actually do signature verification. They count ballots. They go and pick up the ballots and bipartisan teams from drop boxes. It's your friends and neighbors who are doing this work. So when you attack an election process, you think, oh, well, it's just a clerk there. No, you're attacking the entire community of men and women who dedicate themselves to this work. So we have to be aggressive with the truth in the public square so that people can know what really happens.
To go in and face people that are really severely questioning our personal integrity. It's never been attacked to this level before. It's never been to a point where we have received threats not only to ourselves, but our teams and our election judges and our buildings and voters. We've never had to deal with that before. I'm Carly Kappas. I am the Weld County Clerk and Recorder. We are currently in Grand Junction, Colorado on the Western Slope, and we are at the Summer Colorado County Clerks Association Conference. We already have started to see some of the bad actors, unfortunately, pushing incorrect information.
These threats are very real, very serious. And in the face of that, clerks are still being open and wanting people to come in to rebuild that public trust and that public confidence.
It's important to know the process. And a lot of times just hearing me talk about it, hearing the staff talk about it, you don't really take it in like you do when it's hands-on. Everyone has walked away and has said, expressed at some point, it is so much more to it than I ever thought that it would be.
So I think that we see that opportunity group slowly shifting towards the truth, And so if you really want to know how elections work, come join us. We want you to learn the truth from the experts, not the lies from the grifters. The processes are set in statute and rule, which is why if you trust it in Douglas, you should also trust it in Denver. If you trust it in Boulder, you should also trust it in El Paso. This is called the Agilis mail ballot sorting machine. This machine really revolutionized ballot processing. It made it much faster, much more efficient. We have bipartisan teams at just about every step of the process. Our voting system goes through a thorough certification process. We test and audit these systems before and after each election. You can see lots of cameras around the room. They have to be on 24/7, 365. We're not here saying trust us and don't ever look under the hood. We're saying here's everything we have. We'd like you to trust us, but you don't have to. You can go and do an independent validation yourself. The clerks do tours where they invite people in while ballots are being processed. So if you don't want to be an election judge and come in and do the work, maybe time commitments through work or family doesn't allow that, you can still come in and take a tour where the clerk and staff will walk you through the facility, explain everything in great detail, and answer every question that you have. I'm a Republican, and my wife used to work for Dominion Voting Systems. She does some contract work. But it's been interesting that, people take that fact and the fact that I have stood up from right after the 2020 election and said the stolen election narrative is not true. And people have, made it a point to come after my wife and I, up to and including death threats against she and I and our children. But we made a decision early in this that we have to keep plowing through. We are going to do everything we can to be transparent and run great elections and meet bad information in the public square with the truth. People have fought and died for this right. So the fact that people are using this for political and financial purposes is beyond disgusting. Quite frankly, I would say it's un-American. If people don't speak up, bad actors win.
Next, we head to Eads, a rural town in southeast Colorado, where the Kiowa County Independent has a Main Street office. The newspaper's publisher, and only full-time reporter, points to the critical role of local journalism, especially on the Eastern Plains, where other newsrooms are increasingly rare.
Do you want me to send you an email? Do you have email? Do you use email? Okay. All right. Well, your payment went through just fine, so it's good to go.
I really enjoy your little paper because it has names of people in here that I know. And then the old boy that writes the poems in there. I can kind of relate to him because in my younger years, that's what I did, was worked on ranches and cowboy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I get it. It's totally old school. Well, very good. Printing a paper's old school. Paying for a building all the time on a main street is old school. But I think it's really important. Yeah.
Studies have shown when local news organizations go out of business in communities, bad things happen. Fewer people vote, fewer people run for office, municipal bond rates can go up, pollution can get worse. So you want to make sure that a community has access to reliable, trustworthy sources of news and information, and unfortunately, that's just becoming harder and harder.
How do we find out what's going on? How do we find the news? How do we find out what our government's doing? If you don't have a paper, you lose track of all that. They lose their voice. And that can really tear a community apart, even a small community like this. And all the newspapers that are closing out here, they closed the Ledger and they closed Springfield and
Lamar
and Burlington.
Mm-hmm. I can't figure out what's going on.
These big media companies have swooshed in and they're buying up all the newspapers.
Financial institutions known as hedge funds kind of got their claws into local newspapers. They found that newspapers were on the downswing. They invested in them.
They close the buildings, they get rid of the staff, and then when the advertising goes, then they just close it. No big deal.
These hedge funds, they don't necessarily have an obligation to the public as a public service. They have an obligation to shareholders.
So these local papers have to have somebody running them that knows the people. We're located in Eads, Colorado, which is out on the Eastern Plains in southeastern Colorado. We're in the middle of nowhere, basically, and we're basically the only town in the county. I'm independent, so I own the Kiowa County Independent. Our immediate domain is Kiowa County, the whole county, and Cheyenne County. It's Prowers County, Bent County, Kiowa County, Cheyenne County. So it's me as the publisher. And then I'm also on the board of the Kiowa County Economic Development, and I help with the museum, chairman of the Crow-Luther Cultural Event Center. We're trying to get that library in. I just recently got off accountability at the school. Well, I was the principal there, the high school principal. There's another pickup coming, sorry. Come on in, Mont.
Hi, Vince. How are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good.
We're a raw milk drop-off place and pickup place, so besides everything else.
Yeah.
What happened recently on the Eastern Plains here in Colorado is that we saw 5 newspapers go out of business around the same time. So multiple counties on the Eastern Plains will lose their local news source. I consider a news desert a county that does not have a local newspaper that serves it anymore. So Colorado has 64 counties. Our Colorado News Mapping Project has identified at least one county, Cheyenne, that lost its newspaper a couple of years ago and might have become Colorado's first news desert. The only thing you're going to find on there identified as a place where locals have told us they're getting their local news and information is a Facebook page.
It happens in a lot of small areas. Almost every one of these towns has a Facebook page like that.
Cheyenne County has a population of about 1.7 thousand people, and that Facebook page has 1.4 thousand people in it. That's a pretty high number for like a rural area like that. So as these traditional local news sources go away, we're going to see more things like that pop up.
Everybody would tell me if I asked for their advice, they'd say, you gotta go digital, why are you still printing? Everybody that tries to subscribe here, if they're a new subscriber, I always ask them, do you want a hard copy or do you just want a digital copy? They all want a hard copy. That's the way they get their news still out here. If all of these titles just close up and there's nothing out here, it's gonna be bad for the people out here. It's very scary, scary thought.
It's not always legislators who make the laws. Sometimes laws can be made by voters themselves, by proposing ballot measures and putting them up for a vote. Rocky Mountain PBS's Andrea Kramer has a brief history of ballot measures and a step-by-step guide for how to create one.
So does that mean we can count on your vote in November? Sure. Sweet. Let me give you a sticker.
Okay. One important way that we as American citizens have a direct influence on our democracy is by voting on ballot measures. Colorado has passed some historic legislation by ballot measure over the years. From becoming the first state to legalize recreational marijuana.
A new state law takes effect in Colorado today,
allowing recreational use of marijuana.
To establishing term limits, a concept adopted by the rest of the nation. To very recently reintroducing wolves to the state.
We are bringing an endangered species back by public referendum. No other state has used that as a technique.
Colorado voters can vote on statewide ballot measures during the general election in November and during what's called coordinated elections in odd years. There are state, county, and municipal ballot measures. So if you live in, say, Grand Junction, you could be voting on ballot measures that affect the city of Grand Junction, the county of Mesa, or the state of Colorado. Ballot measures have been a part of Colorado history for more than a century. In the early 1900s, a group called the Direct Legislation League believed the state legislature was too friendly to the railroad and timber industries and rallied for a more direct form of democracy. This group advocated for and created the ballot measure here. Some of Colorado's earliest ballot measures established juvenile courts and an 8-hour workday for those who worked in underground mines and mills. Initiatives can make their way onto ballots in one of two ways: through the legislature, called a legislative referred measure, or through citizens, called a citizen-initiated measure. Say I, a citizen, want to get a measure on Colorado's ballot to increase the tax on cigarettes by $2 per pack. First, I need to file the text of my proposed measure with Legislative Council staff. They'll hold a public hearing, review the initiative, and ensure it's compliant with Colorado law. If the Legislative Council staff approves the initiative, I then take the proposal to the title board. They will make sure the measure covers a single subject, is brief, and can be answered with a yes or no. If the title board approves my measure, I then have 6 months to go and gather signatures. I must collect about 125,000 ballot signatures. Once I'm done collecting signatures, I submit them to the Secretary of State's office, who has 30 days to review them and make sure they're valid. If all goes well, my measure will make it onto the November ballot. Woohoo! It will get assigned a number, 1 through 99 if I'm proposing an amendment to the Constitution, or 100 to 199 if I'm proposing an amendment to state laws and regulations, which is the case here with my cigarette tax proposal. When I go to vote, I'll likely see another set of measures on the ballot, those that were referred by the state legislature. These measures will get letters instead of numbers, and the number of letters depends on whether it's a proposed constitutional amendment or a statutory proposition that amends state law. From the late 1800s until 2023, there have been 508 statewide ballot measures, covering everything from abortion to alcohol to education. Ballot measures can also come from counties or municipalities. In Denver, voters voted in 2019 to decriminalize psychedelic mushrooms.
Prop 122 decriminalized the personal possession, growing, sharing, and use of so-called magic mushrooms.
And this year, Denver voters will decide whether, for example, to ban one of the nation's largest lamb slaughterhouses and processing facilities, located inside the city limits.
It takes care of greater than 20% of our production in the United States. So this would be a devastating blow to the industry.
A lot of important social justice movements have used ballot measures throughout the past, and we see them being a really important part of the future of animal rights.
Ballot measures, no matter what level of government they come from, give us a window into what issues Coloradans are thinking about in any given year. Don't forget to vote this election day, November 5th.
Following Denver's lead, Colorado is the first state in the nation to require ballot access to eligible voters in jail. Eligibility for the incarcerated varies state to state. In Colorado, people serving sentences for misdemeanors and those who have finished felony sentences can vote. That's often a surprise.
Colorado is really on the front lines driving the national conversation around guaranteeing ballot access for eligible incarcerated folks. Senate Bill 72, the jail-based voting bill, it was the first of its kind in this nation. So we are the first state to ever require every jail to have an in-person voting event. And now in November, folks who are in the jails will be able to vote for the first time in person, no matter what jail they are in Colorado.
Ladies, I need you to lock in.
We go into the Denver County Jail at least once a month to do voter registration.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kyle. I'm with the Colorado Criminal Justice Reform Coalition. I'm here to talk to you today about your voting rights while you're here at the Denver County Jail.
I can't tell you how many times we run into folks who are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s who've never voted before because they didn't think they had the right to vote because of an old felony conviction that they got in their 20s.
There are certain rules, if you have been convicted of a felony and are serving that sentence, then you are not eligible to cast a ballot. But if you are here in the trial process, or if you have been convicted but have served a felony, then you are able to cast a ballot. And really, it's an educational campaign as well to let people know that even if you are in a facility like this, you still do have the same rights.
I know at the Denver downtown facility, we got 95 people to register to vote. People who are involved in the system, who are the closest to the problems, now get to have a voice in the solutions that will appear on the ballot for the criminal justice system.
So Denver's actually been doing confined voting since 2020. The whole state really sees Denver as a leader in this movement.
We are participating with the Colorado Criminal Justice Reform Coalition, League of Women Voters, with the Secretary of State's office to train other counties in how to set up a vote center, how to process voter registration from inside jails, make sure that people are able to participate and fill out their ballots, and then ultimately be able to turn in their ballot and vote in this upcoming election.
A real live situation.
I was able to volunteer to be a confined voter and just interact with the judges and explain situations that we had been through. I think altogether we had over 75 election officials from all over the state come through that training and be able to just see in person how to do this. The logistics part is the part you just got to figure out when it comes to jail-based voting. But once you're in there, doing the voting, it's just like doing a in-person voting event out in community. A lot of the folks are really excited to see us. They're very excited to be engaged, and they're super excited that we want to engage with them.
The last four of your social security numbers? Okay.
As someone that's formerly incarcerated and had my voice taken away at one point, it's something that's super important to me, and advocating for those who don't have their voices in their democracy and in their communities to have that restored to them. Individuals on the inside have just as much of a stake in voting as anyone on the outside, because the decisions that are being made on those ballots have a direct impact on their families and their lives.
For our last story, we visit the Denver chapter of Braver Angels, a volunteer-led nonprofit looking for a hopeful alternative to toxic politics. Braver Angels unites people from across the political spectrum by promoting respectful political dialogue and empathy with those whom we disagree.
Disagreement is endemic and essential to a democracy. But right now we're afraid of each other because of political differences.
You have 2 minutes to address tonight's question of what are the most important issue or issues for you personally in the 2024 election. Of course, why that is. Not just what is the issue. I mean, what is something behind that?
Virtually everything that Braver Angels does is to get people talking with each other in a respectful manner.
We are not trying to come to the middle. We are not trying to come to a kumbaya moment where we all agree with one another.
I consider myself a libertarian, so all elections for me are about the degree of freedom in the society. I'm very concerned about the notion of the government controlling more of our lives.
So are you looking at our two candidates and you're feeling that one of them is going to be taking away your freedoms?
In my opinion, one party's policies are more intrusive and more expansive of government than the others.
So which policies specifically are you thinking of that are going to be intrusive in your life?
I think political conversations aren't happening in our society right now because people are afraid of judgment.
The world wars, Vietnam Wars, the Great Depression, the Spanish flu, all that stuff that they went through. What a tumultuous time. And we're okay. We're all okay. Yes, there is tragedy in this world, and yes, there's corruption in this world, but my belief is that the good far outweighs the bad in this world today. Is it really all worth it to get all excited about it?
Have you sort of always been apolitical, or is it just sort of the, I don't know, nastiness of the current scenario?
There's a mantra at the Thanksgiving dinner table with your family. The two topics you don't talk about are politics and religion. That just has always saddened me because those are such important topics. And who better to have conversations with than with your loved ones and family? To be able to do it effectively, I think, is just a skill that we really all need to learn.
I don't see politics or any other aspect of our humanity being able to disengage from one's character. We have a brain, we have a mind, we have a heart. And to suggest that that is not an important and integral part of everything that you do in your life, your morals, your ethics, your integrity. I can't dismiss that in anyone, right, left, in any profession.
The minute you put together a diverse team of people, it may not be easy, but it's productive and it's creative.
When I didn't vote for Bush, it wasn't about him as a person. It was because I didn't necessarily agree with the policy or the issue. Now I'm looking and I'm thinking, I can't even believe that this is what our country is putting forth, that we could do so much better. As a school teacher, you sit there and you tell children, like, this isn't, you're not going to be able to get away with this as an adult. And then you realize that the role models that are in power are like, oh no, you do get away with it. And again, and there's never any accountability. So that's been, really shocking to me.
It is important in a democracy that we have a marketplace of ideas. That's what makes us strong. But if we're running away from each other, and if there's animosity, we're not going to solve our problems. When you meet people with a variety of perspectives and you meet in a safe environment, iron really does sharpen iron.
I think it is incredibly difficult to discuss politics with people I care about. I really wish there was a kind of a better public space for Americans in a way that we could speak to each other that was less heated.
It's too polarizing, and the people that are close to me I care too much about to really create any kind of barriers.
The people I care about, I don't. I don't discuss it with them because everybody's kind of polarized on this one. So if you're looking for a fight, that's a good way to start a fight.
Most of the time when I talk to my family, they are very, straight into what they believe. They already know like who they like and who they don't. I definitely try and stay open to as many options. I'm not as educated on politics as I'd like to be, so as many different opinions that I can get, I'm going to take it and listen to it.
A lot of people believe something and think that there's nothing that could ever change their mind, but probably the most important thing, and especially in a contentious political environment, is just to, listen to people and try and learn what you can.
I like to hear what everybody has to think. I like to hear their perspectives, and I think we're pretty open in how we discuss that. It's not a taboo subject.